Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Angel Aliano, he, him, and I'm the Policy and Advocacy Fellow with the Silicon Valley Council of Nonprofits. Welcome to the SVCN and Choose Children, Thriving Children and Families Candidate Forum. Today, we're joined by 5 candidates for the District 2 seat of the Santa Clara County Board of Supervisors. We'll hear these candidates' views on issues that directly impact children and families. If possible, we do encourage all audience members to have their cameras turned on, and to please make sure that your microphones remain muted throughout the forum. As an organization, SVCN hosts these candidate fora to provide nonprofit leaders with the opportunity to learn more about the ideas, visions, and priorities of candidates for local office. We focus our discussion on issues that impact nonprofits as partners, government contractors, community-based service providers, and advocates. Now, before we get started, we would love to learn who is in the room with us. So please introduce yourselves in the chat with your name, your pronouns, your title, your organization, along with the native land that you reside on. As a continuing SVCN practice, I do want to acknowledge that in San Jose, where I'm located today, I currently reside on the unceded lands of the Muwekma Ohlone tribe. Together, let us commit to educating ourselves and advocating for Indigenous peoples, or communities that have been neglected and displaced by the US government and other colonial powers across the world. Since people are tuning in from different areas, I do encourage you to learn about what land you're living on by using the website that my colleague has just shared in the chat, and to please share that information in your introductions. As a continuing SVCN practice, excuse me, had a little trip out there. For accessibility purposes, we do have the automated closed captioning feature in Zoom activated. Now with this, you do have the ability to move the captions around on your screen to a more convenient area, or you can disable the closed captioning feature entirely if you prefer not to have it up. To do so, please reference the bar at the bottom of your Zoom window as pictured on the slide. You can click on the Show or Hide Captions button on the right-hand side, and here you can toggle the captions on and off. If you're having any tech troubles or other troubles during the session, please private message me or any of my SVCN colleagues directly in the chat. And of course, I ought to take a minute to thank our wonderful co-hosts and partners who made today's forum possible. First, thank you to our primary sponsor, Choose Children. I'd also like to give a special shout out and thank you to our partners at ACSA, African American Community Service Agency, Grail Family Services, First Five, and Kids in Common, along with Somos Mayfair, Strong Start, and the Silicon Valley Community Foundation. All of them have been absolutely wonderful, and we could not have done the forum without them. I'm now going to pass it to our co-host and sponsor from Choose Children, Christine Thorstensen, who will be sharing some brief remarks about Choose Children and why intentional spaces like today's forum are so crucial to have. So passing it to you, Christine.
Thank you. On behalf of Choose Children and Silicon Valley Community Foundation, I want to welcome everyone to today's candidate forum. I'd just like to take a moment first to thank the great team at Silicon Valley Council of Nonprofits for all you've done to put this forum together. We really are honored to collaborate with SVCN and our many partners on this event. Special shout out and thank you to Guy Marzorati, who is our moderator for the day. And then a really special thank you to our candidates for Santa Clara County District 2 Supervisor for joining us this afternoon and engaging in conversation on key issues for children and families in our county. Choose Children, a nonpartisan and non-endorsing initiative of Silicon Valley Community Foundation, is a partnership of organizations committed to creating a bright future in San Mateo and Santa Clara counties for our children and families. We work to champion babies, toddlers, preschoolers, and we take the opportunity that's provided by an election to elevate issues important to our young children, their families, and caregivers. Our kids need us. We have a responsibility to ensure that young children begin their lives healthy, safe, and ready to succeed in school and life. And we need our kids even more. The economic vibrancy of our region relies on making it a place where families with young children see a future for themselves. But many of our families are struggling. The high cost of living and raising children in this county means that our families are making tough choices. The recent Choose Children voter survey found that a majority of voters with children reported delaying and decreasing retirement savings, reducing essential spending, and using emergency savings in order to afford childcare. 2 in 5 accrued credit card debt, and 1/3 reported having to ask family and friends for financial support. Surveyed voters reported changing jobs, delaying having another child, or being unable to take a job due to childcare issues. But the survey also highlighted that voters want candidates for local office to prioritize children and come to the table with meaningful solutions that will make Santa Clara County a place where children and families can have a vibrant future. When we work together to ensure that young children and their families are supported, the impacts are far-reaching and long-lasting. We see better educational and career outcomes for our next generation, greater economic security and mobility for our early care workforce and their families, and a robust and just local economy. So we are really looking forward to today's discussion, and thank you all for joining us, and I will turn it back to you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Christine. Really, really appreciate that. Moving us right along, I'd now like to introduce us to our moderator for today's forum. Please welcome Guy Marzorati, a correspondent on KQED's California Politics and Government Desk, based in San Jose. Guy reports on state and local politics and produces KQED's Digital Voter Guide. He's also a graduate of Santa Clara University. Without further ado, I'll pass it to Guy.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thank you to all the candidates for being here and taking time out of your busy schedules to make this forum happen. Before we begin, I'm going to go over some ground rules for today. First, to the audience members, we ask that you stay muted throughout the forum while the candidates are speaking. Candidates, you're going to have 1 minute for opening statements. I will provide a prompt for the opening statement. And then I'm going to ask you a series of questions submitted by sponsors, also some questions that were submitted ahead of time by audience members. And again, you're going to have up to 1 minute to answer those questions as well. And for the convenience of the candidates and also for folks following along in the audience, once I ask the question, we'll also drop the question in the chat at that time so you can reference it as your turn is coming up. During the forum, we're going to have a lightning round as well. So that's going to be a mixture of some more fun or light topics that are just going to require a yes or no answer or just maybe one sentence answer. Then I'll ask some more questions and we'll finish up with a closing statement, which again, you'll each get 1 minute to do your closing statement. Throughout the forum, we're going to have candidates speak on a rotating basis to ensure that you all have a fair opportunity to take the beginning of a question, to go last, to have any spot in between. And then audience members, you have some different options for how to view this all on your screen. If you want to view only the speakers, you can just leave your settings as it is. If the shared screen, which is going to have the timer on it, if that looks too big, you can toggle that middle line over to adjust how the speakers look versus how the timer looks. And just one more note to all the candidates, if you can just please be respectful of the time allotted to each answer. We will have that timer on the screen, and it'll just help move the conversation along and make sure that everyone gets a chance to share their views on these important topics. So without further ado, I'd love to introduce our candidates. We have Betty Young, Nelson McElmurry, Corina Herrera-Loera, Madison Nguyen, and Jennifer Celaya. Thank you all so much. And we're going to begin with the opening statement. Nelson, I'm going to go to you first on this. Santa Clara County, an amazing place to live, virtually limitless opportunities for residents, but also one that's increasingly difficult to raise a family. So we'd like to begin by asking you as a supervisor, what your vision would be to make this county a place where families, where children from all different backgrounds and all different income levels can thrive.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me here. It's my pleasure to be here and join in this very important discussion. Yes, absolutely. What you're saying is correct. As supervisor, my vision for this county would be to create an environment where everyone thrives, regardless of socioeconomic background, whatever the background, money and otherwise, we all deserve a chance to thrive. And that would be my goal. The way to achieve that would be affordable housing, public safety, access to healthcare, and providing a foundation for families to thrive on. In terms of housing, we need to implement policies and initiatives to increase the availability of the affordable houses that are out there, ensuring that the families, regardless of income, have a roof over their heads at night. We need prioritizing public safety measures to create a secure neighborhood where families feel protected and can enjoy a high quality of life. And of course, access to healthcare and a focus on preventative medicine as well.
Thank you so much for that, Nelson. And Betty Young, we're going to go to you next on your opening statement and this question of how to ensure the county is a place where families and where children can thrive.
Yeah, thank you so much. And hi, everybody. My parents came to Santa Clara County in the late 70s when our county was one of 3 congressionally designated refugee resettlement sites. And throughout most of my childhood, we relied heavily on county safety net services, food stamps, welfare, social services, health services, while living and housing made possible by Section 8. It was my job to translate and help my family navigate these resources and services because they don't speak English. I translated medical, financial, and personal matters with a full awareness of what was at stake. I know how challenging it is for families and children to grow up so fast. These experiences allow me to see the world in a different way. And as the keepers of the safety net, we must guarantee the level of service is not just the same as it was 40 years ago when my family depended on it, but that it meets the demands and necessities of today's changing landscape of need. And for the last 10 years, it has been an honor and a privilege to support and strengthen the same system that my family relied on. And I know firsthand, both as a consumer of service and as someone who has managed contracts at the county, there is no safety net without our nonprofit partners. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. And Corina Herrera-Loera, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. And thank you to SVCN and the partners who put this on today. My vision is one where all basic needs are met for all, with a priority on children, a county where staff are culturally reflective and community responsive, and where services are low barrier and in place in the community where they can be easily accessed by all. A county where safety and well-being is secured by prioritizing preventive and protective factors over carceral options, and a county where resilience and healing are readily supported. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Madison Nguyen, we'll go to you next.
Thank you to all the nonprofits for hosting this forum, and a special thanks to Guy Marzorati for moderating. When I was 4 years old, my family escaped Vietnam on a small fishing boat in the middle of the night to start a new life in America. The journey to California wasn't easy. My parents worked in the fields of the Central Valley to support their 9 kids. And when we turned 12, my siblings and I worked alongside them. It was difficult, exhausting work. And even though the whole family worked for 1 paycheck, it was not enough. So we relied on the local county government for help. We were recipients of Section 8 housing, cash assistance, and food stamp. I grew up eating a lot of government cheese. And my parents would always remind us how lucky we were to have support from the county. And that's the same county that I've always known and envisioned, a county that works for a family like mine, a county that left no child hungry or homeless, a county that believes every child should have a great education and the opportunity for a better future. I want that county for my daughter and for every child in Santa Clara County, regardless of their zip code. So as your next supervisor, that will be my mission, and I look forward to sharing with you all my plans to make that happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madison. And Jennifer Celaya.
You're muted, Jennifer.
Can you guys hear me now?
We can. Go ahead.
Muted. How about now?
Yes, sounds great.
Okay, sorry about that. Thank you guys for the invite. I really appreciate it. I just want to say that born and raised in Santa Clara County, last 42 years I've spent here, and I have not been so fortunate to be able to get county benefits, and I've struggled as a single mom. So I want to make sure I ensure that everybody has the support that they need to be able to stay here in Santa Clara County and afford it. And also, I want to just make sure there's transparency and that the biases and the bureaucracy that we see within our system with all of these roadblocks and constraints are removed, and we really have quality when it comes to providing services for families. Like I said, I'm one of those families, 42 years, born and raised here, and I wasn't even able to obtain services like welfare or food stamps. I never qualified. So want to make sure I fight for those underdogs as well.
Thanks so much, Jennifer. And you went last in that question, so you will now go first for our next question, which is about the budget. There's an expected budget deficit of potentially 180 to 380 million in Santa Clara County, a much larger deficit at the state level. So I would like to ask your top budget priorities. Maybe you can give us 3, Jennifer, if you were elected as District 2's next supervisor.
If I was elected or not elected, these are things that I would still continue to try to work on. I think we need to realign and we need to look at the budget and see where we can make some cuts. And if I were to be elected, I would actually like to contribute to the budget where we have deficiencies with my own pay. So whatever a supervisor makes on a yearly basis, I would contribute that yearly pay into the deficiency so that I can make sure that my community is not going to be struggling with the deficiency that we're going to see. And like I said, as a supervisor, and win or lose, I'm still going to fight for alignment when it comes to the budget. There's a lot of programs, a lot of pay out there, CEOs and executives that are getting the big bucks. We need to start looking at how we can start making some cuts and realigning that budget and making it work for our county. We're one of the richest counties. Silicon Valley, we're the tech gurus. We shouldn't be having these deficiencies.
Thanks so much. And Nelson, what would your priorities be for the county budget?
Well, I think you just have to have a strategic approach to doing so. So for example, I forget the exact number off the top of my head, but there are numerous job openings within the county. So if we're facing a budget crunch, I think one of the first areas you can look at is the potential for a hiring freeze, because that money has been allocated for in the budget already. So then that money could be used potentially to cover some of the deficiencies that you would be facing in some of the other program areas because of the state budget crunch. The other approach would be preventative healthcare, right? Attack the problem before the person gets to that, where they're taking an ER trip. So for example, housing helps address that because there are going to be less ER trips. Mental health counseling will address that to prevent more ER trips. In terms of public safety funding, potentially look at other ways to address some of the non-criminal aspects of public service. And I'm sorry, time's up.
Thanks so much for that. And Madison, I'm going to go to you next on this question of the budget.
Thank you. During my nearly 10 years on the San Jose City Council, I had to make the hard decisions of balancing $1 billion budget every year while dealing with huge deficits, especially in the years after the Great Recession. It was really difficult to cut certain programs and services because I knew all too well the impact that it would have for the residents in my district. So how did I make the cuts that had the least impact on families and children? I've always prioritized services that would uplift our communities and families. As supervisor, I will work with my colleagues to identify new streams of revenue through state and federal grants to continue providing vital programs and services. And I will focus on making sure that we do annual audits of every major program to ensure that not only we are delivering excellent services to our community, but we do it with a balanced budget. And that's why it's important to have accountability and metrics in place so that we can help as many people as possible with the resources that we have.
Thanks. And Betty, how would you approach this budget deficit?
Thank you. So the large numbers being presented as the deficit by the county administration can be alarming. And it's important to note that $180 to $380 million those numbers equal to 2 to 4% of the county's $10.6 billion budget. So the deficit is something we can address without eliminating crucial services and contracts with our nonprofit partners and critical service providers. We need to do it in partnership with our nonprofit partners and our coalitions to ensure efficient use of our budget and that innovation is not being stifled. Really, the greater task at hand is to continue to focus on these core services while we grow back our reserve and preparation for the next crisis. My priorities will continue to be housing, public safety, and expanded behavioral health capacity and services. The key to all this will be the stability of the family unit, which necessitates the availability of affordable quality childcare, quality healthcare, early childhood learning opportunities, food, and housing security. Thank you.
Thank you. And Corina, you have the last word on this one, your priorities for the county budget.
Thank you, Guy. I think that's a question that we all have on our minds. And so as supervisor, I will prioritize children and families, behavioral health, and housing, which is fundamental to the first two and key to having safe and healthy communities. Thank you.
Thank you. And Corina, I'm going to stay with you on a question about the county's behavioral health system. Clearly, sustaining the funding and health of this system is going to be a continuing challenge for the next supervisor. What's one key priority that you would pursue to continue moving forward to a behavioral health system that's responsive for both Santa Clara County's youth and the greater community?
Thank you. So our county's behavioral health system is undergoing significant reform via CalAIM, including the roles and systems involving state and federal payment. A key priority for me will be working to secure and improve our care pathways, looking out for our agencies doing the critical frontline work who are often already overextended. I'll be engaged in learning from all of you about the impacts of CalAIM and will problem solve together. Positive impacts to our youth and greater community will rely on our coordination and response to the real bumps that any reform it entails. I will be an accessible, watchful, present partner. Thank you.
Thank you, Corina. Jennifer Celaya, what's your priority for the county's behavioral health system?
Well, first of all, I would like to piggyback off of what Corina said about reform that's going on right now with behavioral. And I believe that we need to be more strategic about how we implement services. I think a lot of the restrictions and barriers that are in place now that are prohibiting youth to get access to these services, we really need to start looking at that and be more sensitive to the needs of the youth or the community that are accessing these services. So I would say that we need to partner more with nonprofit agencies and community-based organizations. And I think we also need to start bringing community to the table when we're making decisions regarding this, because they're the ones utilizing the services and the ones that are having the more tough time receiving services. So I think that we need to just start having collaboration when it comes to these services.
Thanks, Jennifer. And Betty Young, I'm going to go to you next on this question of the county's behavioral health system.
Yes, one key priority is access. That means being able to be assessed and receive treatment when we ask for it. And it means there's a place for our children in whichever part of the system they need, outpatient, crisis, inpatient. Although I believe we can avoid the highest level of care by providing access to effective outpatient services. The path to adequate access is working with all of you to maintain and expand access across the system. I want to use the example of the Vietnamese American Service Center, a prime example of how we prioritize access from the perspective of the clients. It has same-day co-located care, a health clinic, behavioral health clinic, senior nutrition program, contracted nonprofit services in the same place. Hours of operation are Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. We need to meet people where they are and prioritize our most vulnerable youth first, meaning the families and children in our system right now, our foster youth and transition-age youth. I'm so proud that the Vietnamese American Service Center is a project that I helped lead on. And let me add that an example of what we should avoid is the way the county administration did not work with ELISA and BHCA earlier on the CalAIM implementation. Not listening and not acting sooner has caused us to lose capacity. We have to do better, and I will.
Thanks so much. And Nelson McElmurry, what's your vision and your priority for the county's behavioral health system?
Well, I think it's a combination of leaning on all of our community partners and organizations that are the experts in this field, leaning on that expertise, partnering with them to create a comprehensive network that's able to reach the youth and the people that are most in need. And the way you would do that would be a combination of the following. You're going to create education and awareness, of course. People need to know that these services are available. They need to be educated about where to get them. You need to provide them the access points where they can get this service. Make this available to them, even if it's through a webinar. And thirdly, promoting the early intervention programs. Plenty of our partners, as I've looked into this, have incredible resources that can go into helping identify challenges in some of our youth and lower income communities that normally wouldn't have access to this. So I think we really need to lean on the expertise of our community partners if we want to have a realistic chance of tackling this crisis.
Thanks for that. And Madison, what would be your priority regarding the county's behavioral health system? Oh, I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. Thank you for the question. It's not an exaggeration to say that our youth is struggling to get back to normal after COVID, struggling to go out there and be social. They're feeling so isolated, and many of these parents are working hard to make ends meet. So that it creates even a bigger problem within the family. As a county, we need to offer more behavioral health services. But from my perspective, the first step in addressing behavioral health is prevention. It's really important that we help and continue to provide support for children and youth in their daily lives. One of my key priorities is creating programs for youth and small children, from expanding childcare to early learning and providing educational and recreational services for our families, and also supporting and providing funding for our value partners in the nonprofit sector so that they continue to do their vital work. It's more important now than ever to have that cohesive, solid partnership between local government and the private and the nonprofit sector. Thank you.
Thanks, Madison. And you mentioned childcare. That's actually our next question. It's no secret that finding affordable, available childcare is difficult for a lot of families in the county. So I'm wondering if you can give us one idea that you have to build the capacity of the childcare system here, and be able to give parents, both safe and quality childcare options so that in, many cases they can go to work.
Thank you so much. In 2010, while serving as District 7 council member, I worked with the Franklin McKinley School District and other community partners to launch the Franklin McKinley's Children Initiative. This is a cradle to college model where we work with parents and school-age children in the Santee and Fair neighborhoods to create a safe and fun environment where kids can learn and thrive academically and socially. It coordinates existing services and neighborhoods' efforts to cut poverty for all these families. I was able to secure funding from the City of San Jose to fund the initial phase of this project. So one idea I have is to expand programs such as EduCare. How do we do that? By looking at the list of existing properties and land that the county currently owns and develop partnerships to turn these empty properties into vibrant buildings where kids can thrive. I don't think that the county should be in the business of land banking. If we have available land, use it. I'd rather have buildings with kids playing and learning and thriving than empty land and buildings that are collecting dust. Thank you.
Thank you. And Corina, how would you approach this issue of childcare and specifically building out the county's capacity and childcare system?
Yes, so we need to protect and expand groundbreaking strides in workforce development, sustaining programs that foster and support early education workers, apprenticeships, giving college students practical training, best practice and technical support for family childcare home providers, and training more early learning and TK teachers. As a current board president at the Alum Rock Union Elementary School District, I am proud to have championed our Early Learning Center, first of its kind in the state of California. These types of creative solutions are what it takes to build the capacity in our childcare system. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jennifer, I'll go to you next on this question of childcare.
Absolutely. So, I'm hearing everyone talk about, something that we need to create that is already in place. We have tons of childcare. We just need to make it affordable and accessible for families, even working families, not just families who fall in a low income bracket. I believe all families on all income levels should have access to quality care like EduCare. And I think the program with EduCare is very great, and we need to start looking at making sure we have several of those type of agencies or centers throughout the county. Like I said, there is childcare. It's just not obtainable for some families. Even the working class families are having issues with meeting requirements or restrictions. And I think that if we remove these barriers, we're going to have these childcare slots filling up. So we have it already. We just got to work around these restrictions and remove the barriers so families can have access.
Thanks, Jennifer. And Nelson, this question to you about expanding childcare capacity.
Yeah, I think you have to approach it in a few different manners. I think one of them is to look to the private sector with business, establishing public-private collaboration with local businesses, at least businesses that are in a position where they can create childcare facilities or other methods where they can assist in the childcare aspect of daily life, whether that comes through exploring grants, tax breaks, et cetera. I also think you have to look to community resource centers and make it something where childcare information, whether it's for childcare itself, the training, whatever it be, we need resource centers where people have access to this information that's easy to find, and so that they're aware of what is out there. EduCare is a perfect example of a facility that has resources from other sectors beyond what they just do there. And so we need to explore that type of thinking with all county facilities, I believe. And finally, I would say we have to find enough qualified providers, but they need to be paid better. So whether we give them grants, tax breaks, whatever, we need to get quality providers and pay them better.
Thank you so much, Nelson. And Betty, you get the last word on this question on childcare.
Hey, I want to first give credit to Supervisor Ellenberg and the board for the work they have done and are doing now. The board has allocated over $30 million of the American Rescue Plan Act federal money directly to childcare. First Five has received $10 million for workforce development to strengthen the pipeline for quality childcare providers. And Valley Health Foundation is working with the county to award $15 million in grants to family childcare providers and centers for construction, operations support, and expansion. This money will help restore capacity lost during COVID and improve the facilities and operations of many providers. And the directive from the board has been to prioritize grants to minority-owned and operate childcare centers and home-based providers who serve our immigrant and communities of color. The idea I have is to continue to identify and apply for state, federal, private, county funds and explore revenue opportunities to do three things. One, increase the capacity of quality childcare. Two, make it more financially accessible to families. And three, work to increase the wages of providers and their staff for this important work. I'm proud to share that with everyone here. I'm the only one that has the endorsement and support of the SEIU locals representing childcare providers and home-based providers, home-based caregivers. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Betty, you're going to kick us off on our lightning round of questions. Again, we want these to be just one answer or, one sentence. Try to give voters a chance to get to know you all outside of your policy expertise. So we're going to start with you, Betty, on your favorite animated movie.
How's Moving Castle?
We'll take it. Madison, favorite animated movie.
Frozen, because my daughter made me watch it like 1,000,000 times.
Okay. Corina?
Coco.
Jennifer?
Cinderella.
And Nelson, favorite animated movie.
Pinocchio.
All right, quite the variety there. Okay, favorite park within District 2. Nelson, we'll let you go first on this one.
Bakesto Park.
McElmurry Park. Madison.
Vieira Park and Communications Hills, because it's the park that is home away from home for my daughter since she was 3 months old.
Betty.
Collier Park.
Corina.
Emma Push Park. It reminds me of my daughter being 4 and saying, "This is the most marvelous park in the world." And that's where we host our annual Aztec Mexica New Year. So yes.
That's fantastic. And Jennifer, favorite park in District 2.
I'm going to say I have two, Roosevelt and Bakesto, because I grew up at both parks throughout my life.
All right, well, thank you all for that. And last question in the lightning round, favorite children's book. This can either be from your own childhood or one that you enjoy reading to kids now. Corina, why don't you kick us off for this one?
Oh my goodness. I had like 5 that came to mind, so I'll narrow it down to one. Mommy, I Love You.
Jennifer.
I believe it's called Where the Wild Things Are.
That's a good one. Betty, favorite children's book?
It's our current one, me and my daughter's favorite current children's book. It's called Eyes That Kiss the Corner, and it teaches you how to love your unique Asian features. Thank you.
Nice. And Nelson.
I don't know if it's a children's book, but I read it as a child, and I think too many times, but Cannery Row.
Cannery Row. And Madison, favorite children's book?
Dr. Seuss, Green Eggs and Ham.
Okay, classic. All right, well, thank you all for running through all that with us. We'll now move back to our regularly slated questions. You can take back up to a minute to answer these ones. A critical component of advancing racial justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion is involving in leadership and decision-making individuals with lived experiences. If elected, how will you incorporate those community voices in your decisions, in your policymaking, in your programs, and in initiatives that directly impact children and families? And Betty, we will start with you on this one, the question of involving a diverse group of folks in the work that you do.
Yeah, one of the lessons we learned from COVID-19 is that the county must do more to hear from the community. The Real Coalition came together and demonstrated the strength of our nonprofits and influenced county policy and budgetary decisions. The Nonprofit Community Coalition has made great efforts and built momentum in engaging our county leadership and setting budget priorities to ensure integration of racial equity throughout our work. I look forward to supporting and being a good partner to this work, and I don't have to wait to become a supervisor to be a partner. I'm always available to speak, to listen, and better understand how best to serve and be an ally. And another thing I want to add too is like our work with just as an example, our foster youth at the hub. In 2013, within a month of my first month of county employment, one of the first meetings I had was with our foster youth and transition-age youth at the county hub. They asked for 3 things. Number 1, a shower, because they were taking showers in a hose hookup in the back of the alley. Number 2, they wanted their own hub space designed with them and by them. Number 3, they wanted a career development program, not just job placement, but job coaching, mentorship. We did all 3 in the last 10 years. breaking ground on the new hub with 81 units of housing for transition-age youth.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Madison, we'll go to you.
Thank you so much. Being in public office for 13 years, I've had a chance to work with a diverse group of people, but I have to say that one of the best group of people I had a chance to work with and will continue to work with would be our youth. Back in 2002, I had a chance to work with a lot of youth from our community. We organized a voter registration drive where we actually registered 5,000 new voters for in Santa Clara County. And when I was on the San Jose City Council, I've had these internship programs where we work with high school students and college students. And I have to say that one of the best ideas and ordinances that came out of my office, for example, the ban of smoking in public parks actually came from one of our interns. So as supervisor, I would love to implement the same internship in my office. And I will host monthly District 2 Youth Council to personally meet with high school students and college students to hear ideas, to hear the input on how we can better serve our community.
Thank you, Madison. And Corina, how would you incorporate community voices?
Yes, thank you. As a current school board member and youth advocate for decades, I'm humbled to have established relationships with trusted youth and community leaders. I'm grateful to have over the years built strong bridges in collaboration with many of you and many of who are part of the Real Coalition. My candidacy is lifted by a campaign of community builders who've mentored many of us and hold space to amplify community voices. I'm honored to be endorsed by the Moec-Maloney tribe of the San Francisco Bay Area, Dolores Huerta, and Blanca Alvarado, all vital brokers of trust and cultural bridges. I'll continue to advocate for youth, meet and listen to the community, and lead in gathering the community with your partnership. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Jennifer, how would you bring those voices to the table as a supervisor?
Well, I'm bringing that voice to the table now because I am a community member and my voice is through this candidacy here. So I can speak for the people, by the people. I grew up through a very broken system, a very dysfunctional system here in Santa Clara County. And I've made sure that my voice has been at all tables at all times, speaking on behalf of the youth, speaking on behalf of families, mothers and fathers, grandparents. And through my nonprofit New Beginnings Family Services, we have created those opportunities and solutions by bringing the community together and continuing to making sure that we pave the way that community is going to be at the table at all levels, regardless of what seniority or level of title. I'm going to make sure the community's voice is always heard because I am a community member that's making my voice heard at this level. And I'm speaking on behalf of all of us.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. And Nelson, you have the last word on this question.
Thank you. Yeah, this question hits home for me simply because not only am I a criminal defense attorney, but I also do civil rights work and also dependency work. So I really have had the opportunity over 19 years to observe a lot of the breakdown between the community and, let's say, the government or the system, if you will. And miscommunication, lack of understanding has been a huge issue. And so in terms of how to bring those together, I think a combination of different approaches. Community advisory boards made up of a cross-section of the community. Everyone's included, whether you're a perfect citizen or have been in and out of jail. I think we need a diverse cross-section for that. Regular town hall meetings, outreach programs, sending people out to schools. We've got to reach the children when they're younger, educate them about these things and get them involved so they understand the process and they understand society and how you develop and go through it. And of course, online feedback. This is Silicon Valley. Let people leave their feedback however they would like to, anonymously, electronically, how have you.
Thanks so much, Nelson. I'm going to stick with you on our next question, which is about the housing and affordability crisis, and specifically about displacement. I'm wondering if you can talk about the strategies and policies that you would try to implement as a supervisor to address displacement.
Well, again, I think it's a combination of affordable housing, equitable development planning, and innovative funding. So with the housing, we have to advocate for and support the development of affordable housing units throughout the county. And that's just working through it with developers, with nonprofits, with community stakeholders, and also with working our way to cut through the red tape so that affordable housing doesn't take 5 to 7 years to get built. Right now, we are solving problems that are years behind us simply because of the permit and build process. So there's got to be a way to expedite that. And then in terms of funding solutions, we need to find funding mechanisms, impact fees on luxury developments, ways to generate revenue for those housing initiatives. And then, of course, with development planning, engage in comprehensive community-driven development planning takes into account the needs and aspirations of who lives there as it is. This includes preserving the neighborhood character and incorporating affordable housing in a way that doesn't damage the existing character of a neighborhood.
Thank you so much. Betty, what can the county do to reduce displacement?
Invest in homeless prevention and strengthening tenant protections and offering new models such as co-op ability to purchase small property. I want to just give a shout out that 2016 Measure A is a testament to the power of partnership and the great things that we were able to do together. We needed a 2/3 passage rate in 2016 to pass Measure A, and that was not possible without our nonprofit partners. And we need to continue this partnership as a regional housing bond measure is being discussed. My policies will focus on building out a homeless and housing displacement prevention system that is just as robust as the intervention system we have created. Because for every one person we house, 2 more become unhoused that day. And I know there are nonprofit leaders in the audience that will disagree that that number is much higher. I just also want to go look back on what we've been able to create to build a successful foundation on top of that. Measure A has built 3,400 units of housing on track for completion by 2026, create a $50 million first-time homebuyer assistance program, and has put 10,000 projects, units of housing in the pipeline that's going to need this regional housing bond measure to be able to complete. And we're going to need to do that together. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. And Madison, what would be your strategy as a supervisor to try to reduce displacement?
Thank you so much for the question. When my family arrived in this country, we were incredibly fortunate to have housing assistance from the local county government. That's why it's been a passion of mine to work at keeping people housed. So when I was on the San Jose City Council, I helped build more than 1,000 units of affordable housing for my district. And that's not talking about support for other affordable housing throughout the city of San Jose. And I took the lead on preserving 58 mobile home parks in San Jose, so thousands of residents wouldn't be displaced. These mobile home parks are some of the most affordable housing in Santa Clara County. I want to increase our options for keeping people housed, like supporting policies like expansion of basic income for foster youth and expansion of rental assistance, and having more shelter available for victims of domestic violence. It's about providing that safety net. And lastly, I'll just say that having worked at Hunger at Home, I know the value of strong partnerships between the nonprofit sector and local government, and we need to do everything we can to solidify that partnership to help more people in our community.
Thank you so much, Madison. Corina, this question about reducing displacement, I'll throw it to you.
Yes, thank you. I will continue to the rental and deposit assistance via our county partnerships with the homeless prevention system, including continued partnerships with place-based nonprofit agencies for low barrier community access to rapid responsive assistance. As a school board member, I am proud to have began the process of starting our teacher workforce housing, housing that is necessary and that we can address it from all areas and all levels in our county. It is also important to partner across jurisdictions to leverage resources and assess surplus land as options in addressing housing displacement. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer.
I think that we talk about affordable housing as if we don't have affordable housing here in Santa Clara County. We absolutely do, but we need to talk about being strategic in how we administer affordable housing and how the restrictions and requirements are continuing to make it difficult for families to obtain affordable housing. We need to make sure that when we do give these units out for people that qualify for this affordable housing unit, that we're putting a strategic plan in for them to set them up for success, and that we are making sure that they have a better quality of life. And not only that, but they are going to be self-sufficient as they're living in these affordable housing units, so that way they can continue to move forward, progress their life, and they're not staying in a unit where it's for people that need it. And we want to make sure that we're moving that forward. Again, we have leaders that have been pushing this issue for decades, and we talk about it. about bringing more affordable housing and where is it at. We just need to get people in office that are going to really make sure we have oversight when we're administering this.
Thank you so much. And now we're getting towards the end of our forum today. Voting begins on Monday, so we want to give all the candidates a chance to make their closing statement, their closing pitch to voters. And Jennifer Celaya, I'll start with you. 1 minute to give your closing statement.
I want to just thank everybody for the opportunity to be heard. As a single Latina mother here in Santa Clara County, I've faced a lot of barriers to get to where I'm at today. It was not easy. But there's opportunities here. We're in the land of opportunity. And I think that if we have a leader that is compassionate and knows with lived out experience in combination with education, we can start heading in a much brighter direction. And I think that voters need to really, really research the candidates that they're going to vote into office, because we see this all too often where we vote for somebody because their false promises or what they say sounds good until they get into a seat and it becomes a facade all over again. As a registered voter living in Santa Clara County, I am fed up, and that's why I had to take this stance to represent my community. Win or lose, I'm still going to be there to fight the good fight, and good luck to everybody.
Thank you so much. And Corina Herrera-Loera, the floor is yours for your closing statement.
Thank you. As a Chicana, Wirarica, Huichol woman, I am proud to be here on behalf of my ancestors and all they did in order for me to have this opportunity to be your candidate. I'm determined to address the challenges facing our most vulnerable communities, recognizing tough times demand new and innovative solutions. I believe in the politics of hope and service, driven by a commitment to advocating for those who need it the most. With almost 3 decades of experience, I've consistently woven myself into the community fabric, focusing on the well-being of the most vulnerable. My dedication to serving our community is unwavering. I am one of you. As your county board supervisor, I will serve with strong values, and I will remain a steadfast, dedicated champion for our children, families, and partners. Together, I am confident that we can create a community that is healthier, happier, and safer for us all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Corina. Nelson McElmurry, the floor is yours.
47 years, born and raised in District 2, North 1st Street, San Jose. I'm an attorney now, but I come from a blue-collar background. My dad drove a UPS truck. My mother was injured in a car accident and raised me as a child. My wife used to go door to door selling oranges growing up. So I understand what the struggles are like for many in our society, but I also understand the opportunities. I live in this district. I've practiced law for 19 years in this district. I've had interactions with numerous areas or sections of the county in this district. What I'm asking for is your faith and your trust in me, that my experience and my commitment to this community, a wife, 4 children that live in this community and deal with many of the same issues that you do, that I will make the decisions that are in the best interest of the community as a whole, and that I have a personal stake in this, and that I care.
Thank you, Nelson. Betty Young will go to your next for your closing statement.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to participate in this forum today. I've worked with many of you in my role as a campaign manager for Measure A, through our policy work at the Children, Seniors, and Families Committee, through budgeting, the COVID-19 response, and development of the largest paid internship program at the county that prioritizes foster youth, transition-age youth, CalFresh, and CalWorks youth. As an employee, I have demonstrated partnership, understanding, effectiveness, and innovation. As we head into our first budget deficit in 10 years, we need a supervisor who deeply understands the complexities of the county organization. I have launched new programs, services, the new offices and departments, the first of its kind in the country, in the state, and in the county. I've done so much as a county employee. As your partner, I can do so much more as a county supervisor, and I can't wait to do that with you. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm so sorry, I continue to lose my voice, so thank you all for bearing with me today as I try to get the words out. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. Hope you feel better soon. And Madison Nguyen, you have the last closing statement of the afternoon, 1 minute.
I want to thank everyone for tuning in today, and I also want to thank all the candidates for being here. My passion to help create a better community for our children started long before I had my daughter, Olivia, who is now 11 years old. When I was serving on the Franklin McKinley Board of Education, I made it my priority to ensure that every child had access to an excellent education. And that's why I helped implement the Franklin McKinley's Children Initiative, which is a cradle to college program for all students. And I was also a part of a community group that supported EduCare coming to District 7. So today, to see that center thriving under the leadership of Sean Girth and her team is truly heartwarming. To me, this is what public service is all about. It's about helping others. It's about uplifting communities. It's about letting a helping hand when no one else is looking. It's about building a future for those who may not have a voice. And yes, it's about being a good role model for our children. I am proud of the work that I've done during my 15 years of public service in our community as a school board member, council member, vice mayor, and a nonprofit director. And I appreciate the opportunity to be with you all today. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Madison. Thank you to all the candidates for your participation, for all our audience members for joining us. Don't forget to vote. Voting starts on Monday. And I'll pass it back to Angel for our closing statements.
Thanks, Guy. And candidates, thank you so much for joining us again today. We really appreciate you sharing your plans to support children and families in Santa Clara County. And of course, another shout out to Guy. Thank you again. You've been absolutely wonderful today, and thank you for moderating. All of your time is much appreciated, folks, who've joined us, and we're really happy to have you here. Once again, a huge thank you to all of our attendees for making it out today, and to our co-sponsors of this forum. I see a few folks in the in the participants here. Before you go, our team has a few quick and important announcements. Keep your eyes on the chat because we'll be dropping some links you may want to grab. As a nonprofit association, we want to be accessible to you all as best as possible. So please reference the information listed on this slide to best inform you on how best to contact our team. Your feedback and your suggestions really do help us improve the way that we serve the nonprofit sector. That's it today for our nonprofit candidate forum. Thank you for joining us. All the recordings at the end of the session will be posted on our YouTube page, and we'll be sure to announce them as they become available. Thanks, everybody.